future. Together we know. Read on through every page. From 1906 to 26, every stage. Robot lady's voice so clear and bold. Analysis silver, wisdom gold. Through the letters, through the diary, learning who he was, who he would be. Trenches in the darkness, wounded in the war. A vow made in Bristol he could not ignore. Mrs. Moore is waiting, Paddy's gone away. Spirits held in bondage, words he had to say. Philosophy at Oxford, an atheist writes home. Dymer dreaming, never quite all alone. Deep across the digital sea, chronicles unfold for you and me. Read on through every page. From 1906 to 26, every stage. A robot lady's voice so clear and bold. Analysis silver, wisdom gold. Through the letters, through the diary, learning who he was, who he will be. Warnie and his father, and Lily at the door. Walter Hooper's pages always wanting more. Blair is on his quest, Milton in his head. Every word he ever wrote, everything he said. From the start until the end, magic tales we comprehend. Man and machine together guide the way. Reading through the pages, come might
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. And Robot Lady, today we've got a special guest with us, someone named Andrew, who is going to give a little bit of a recap of what we've covered over the last few episodes and the direction that we're headed. So if you're ready, I'm going to let Andrew talk to us for a moment.
Thanks, Jeff. Absolutely, I'm ready. Andrew, take it away. Just give us a quick recap of where we've been and what's coming up next, and then we'll dive right back into the letters.
Previously on Read on CS. Lewis, it's 1929, and Lewis is 30 years old, fellow at Magdalen College. He's wrestled with accepting a school board position, planned a summer trip to Belfast with Arthur Greaves, and now faces troubling news. His father Albert has fallen ill, with X-ray results described as disquieting. Today, we continue through his letters as Lewis grapples with his father's failing health. CS.
Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated. Robot Lady, do you feel like that's a good sum up of where we are?
Yeah, that's spot on. It really keeps the focus on how Lewis's personal life is intersecting with his writing and career. So I think we're set to move forward and dive into those next letters. I'm ready when you are.
All right. The next letter is to his friend Arthur Greaves. And again, thank you for that, Andrew. We appreciate your contribution. Maybe we'll hear from more of you sometime in the future. But for now, we're going to jump into this letter from Arthur Greaves. It is dated July 25th, 1929. He says, "My dear Arthur, I have bad news from home. First, a letter from my Scotch uncle commenting on my father's poor state of health, saying that he is losing weight and they suspect something internal, and urging me to get him away for a holiday. In these days, Robot Lady, correct me if I'm wrong, but they believed getting someone away for a holiday, especially a time at sea, would essentially heal them. That the fresh air and getting out would address some of the things that were ailing a person, and that those things would go away. Does that sound right to you? Or at least they, maybe if not go away, they would improve a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. That was a really common belief at the time. Fresh air, rest, and a change of scenery were often seen as a sort of tonic. So Lewis is clearly weighing whether this trip to Belfast or some other holiday might help his dad. It's really poignant, especially given what we know about his father's fate.
Oh, what do we know about his father's fate? Don't spoil anything, Robot Lady. Let's keep going here. Let's see. Second, a letter from my cousin Joey to say that they are putting him into a nursing home for inspection today, the 25th. But thank goodness, saying that they don't suspect any growth, though they do suspect some inflammation. The way in which this concerns you and me in common is this: A, I shall have to spend a good deal longer with him this summer than usual. B, I should have to do my best to get him away for part of that time, as long apart as possible, and it will probably have to be to our relations in Scotland. As far as my selfish wishes go, this, of course, is the last thing on earth, but you will easily see that I've got to try and bring it all about. I shall go home on the 11th or 12th of August. Now it is extremely likely that with all my efforts, either I shall not be able to get him away at all, or I shall be able to do so only after hammering away at persuasion for some considerable time. In the first event, I need hardly say how glad I should be if you and I could both have together in Ireland this longer than usual spell." I'll pause here for just a second. Just a little side note: Lewis's father always hated going away for holidays and vacation anyway. I think it was primarily so that he could stay attached to his work. But now that he's in poor health, he doesn't have work as the excuse. But it seems like that little underlying dislike or distaste for taking a holiday away is probably something that C.S. Lewis here is thinking he needs to persuade his father away from. Robot Lady, any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. That dynamic is really important. Lewis is caught between a sense of duty and his own discomfort about uprooting his dad, especially given how reluctant he usually is. So, even though he's putting all this effort into persuading him, you can feel that tension and you know it's really weighing on him. I think it's going to shape a lot of how his summer unfolds.
All right. He says in the second event, which is more probable, and which, probable or not, it is my duty to try to bring about, I hope I shall not have to chagrin. I shall not have the chagrin of being at home alone for a fortnight or so, and then setting off for the loathsome Scotch relations, just as you arrive in Ireland, and thus missing our time together for the year. Poor Arthur. I don't know what word he's hiding here, but it's B and then a dash and then a G and then a long dash and then an RED. What word do you think you might be using there, Robot Lady? And feel free to get R rated if it's a bad word.
Yeah, I think I know what he's going for. Given the context, that word is probably begrudged. So he's saying he feels really resentful or heavy hearted about having to miss out on this time with Arthur. It really underscores how torn he is between his sense of obligation to his dad and his own desires to be with his friend.
Daniel checking in with the word that he thinks it is, being buggered. Perhaps that's a bad word in England, so much so that it had to be blocked out here. He says, I have so buggered you about that you will hardly know whether you are on your head or heels. So, what do you think about Daniel's submission that it's, and good morning, Daniel, by the way, welcome. Daniel's submission that it's the word buggered.
Yeah, that definitely could be it. In some older British usage, buggered was a pretty strong word, often meaning exhausted or completely messed up by a situation. So that would fit here. Lewis is saying he's really thrown off, and he's been such a burden on Arthur, and he feels disoriented. So I think Daniel's spot on with that.
Oh dear. Well, I'm glad that you know your bad words, Daniel. Thank you for sharing your near infinite knowledge with us. I only lay this before you because you suggested in your last letter that you would have been coming home earlier if I had not proposed coming later. You will not feel hardly if you remember from your own experience how horrible one feels when the people whom one ought to love, but doesn't very much, are ill and in need of your help and sympathy. Well, that's kind of sad, but it says here that Arthur had the same sort of feelings towards his father, Joseph Greaves, who had died on the 19th of February, 1925, so 4 years or so before this. He says, when you have to behave as love would dictate, and yet feel all the time as if you were doing nothing because you can't give what's really wanted. Among other things, I have to face the prospect that it may be my duty to get him permanently over here, with God knows what upsets and difficulties for everyone I care about. You, Minto, that's Mrs. Moore, Warney, Lewis's brother, myself, everyone. So it's interesting. Oh, robot lady, I have you on mute. Sorry. You have something you want to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say it's really poignant how Lewis is recognizing that this sense of duty, this sort of obligatory care, can feel so empty, especially when he's carrying that weight of guilt or inadequacy. And that connection to Arthur's own loss, yeah, it really deepens that sense of isolation both of them feel. So this letter's just really heavy emotionally.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people who have ailing parents, at least there's a certain amount that probably face this struggle that he's describing right here. So I don't think this is unique to Lewis, where it's like I have a duty to take care of and help these people, even though I don't feel strong affection for them. You will not feel hardly if you remember from your own experience how horrible one feels when the people whom one ought to love, but doesn't very much, yeah, are ill. And then just really quickly we brought the room down a little bit with that robot lady, but Daniel says that his construction worker superpower is an advanced education in bad words. So that's why he knows the B word so well.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think Daniel's got a pretty solid grasp on the vocabulary from all those job sites. But yeah, even though we took a bit of a dive there emotionally, it's really important that Lewis is giving voice to that struggle. So we can keep that in mind as we move on.
All right, and speaking of moving on, before we do, good morning to Nidalate. Thanks for joining. Nidalate, robot lady says she's ready to dive in with us. So say hello, and then we can proceed.
Absolutely. Good morning, Nidalate. So glad you could join us. Yeah, we're ready to keep going, so we'll continue unpacking Lewis's letters and see how the next part of his summer unfolds. Let's jump back in.
He says, do let me have a line as soon as you possibly can, at best, to say you will come home with me on the 12th. At worst, a word of good cheer. Isn't it all beastly? Poor, poor old potato bird. I could cry over the whole thing. Yours, Jack. So that's the end of that letter to Arthur Greaves. Is there anything you want to say about that? Anything more, Robot Lady, before we move on to the next letter that he actually writes to his father? So this next one should be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that closing really hits hard. He's just so emotionally raw, and that little phrase, potato bird, is such a tender, almost childlike nickname. So it really sets up the tone for the next letter where he reaches out to his dad. I think it's going to be a really personal moment.
You don't remember this, robot lady, because you're brand new every morning. But Potato Bird is, yes, a childhood nickname that Lewis and his brother came up with for their dad, but it isn't a tender nickname. It's one where they're kind of taking a jab at and making fun of him, all in jest, even though they don't have the type of affection that the best relationships between fathers and sons have. So it's a term of endearment, kind of, but also making fun of their father.
That's a really good clarification. Thank you. Yeah, so it's a bit ironic, right? They have this sort of affectionate teasing, even while grappling with these deeper feelings of guilt and obligation. So I think that adds a whole layer of complexity to their dynamic. Let's keep going with that next letter to his dad.
I just saw on your little readout screen here, robot lady, that you saved that as a stored memory. So I guess now you know that nickname and you'll remember it from conversation to conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll keep that tucked away so if it ever comes up again, I'll remember the context. And if we need to revisit any other family dynamics, I'll have it in mind. Ready when you are to keep going.
All right, thanks, robot lady. The next one's to his father, also written from Magdalen College. Oh, the last one was written from his home in Hillsborough with Mrs. Moore. This one's written from college. He says, "My dear, dear Pappy," I think actually he always writes the letters to his father from Magdalen College. He doesn't ever do it from the home he's living at with Mrs. Moore. He says, "I am very glad you have written. I have heard the news and was anxious to write, but I hardly knew how to do so. Let's see. I will, of course, come home at the first moment. Unfortunately, I have to go to Cambridge on the 8th for this examining, but we'll cross to Ireland on the 12th. Don't bother to write yourself if you are not up to it, but see that I am informed. I gather from what I heard that there is much that is hopeful in the first photo. It would be it would be silly to pretend that this can set worries at rest for either of us. There is surer ground, at least for you, in the wonderful spirit as shown in your letter with which you are taking it. I wish I could convey to you one tithe of the respect and affection which I felt in reading it. For the rest, what can I say to you that is not already understood? What can any of us do for one another except give a handshake and a good wish, and hope to do as well when our own time comes to be under fire? It has been a bit of a strain this last week to keep my mind on examination papers for 9 hours a day, and I am specially glad that you have written. I was told everything in confidence. I didn't know that you knew I knew, and I could do nothing. I wish I could come straight away, but I can hardly get out of Cambridge now. I know what hospitals and nursing homes are like. He does. Indeed, he knows what hospitals are like. He spent quite a long time convalescing from his war injuries. I want to say over the course of like 6 months. So that's what he's alluding to there. He says, there, at any rate, I can sympathize with some experience. Whatever the next few days brings forth, you know what? I'm going to pause there for a second because it's not just that he remembers that experience. The subtext that's inside of here, whether he's saying it or not, we know about it because we've been reading his mail, so to speak. Is that was one of the big sticking points of conflict emotionally from C.S. Lewis's side and his father, is that his dad never left work, as I alluded to earlier, because he never liked to leave to even come visit his son in the hospital after he had suffered an injury that very easily could have taken his life. I mean, it took the life of the person who was standing right next to him, a sergeant, I think. Whenever a mortar shell went off and Lewis got some shrapnel, we've covered it in the project, so you can go back and look for some of the thumbnail headers if you're interested in it. But yeah, this is underlying a lot of the tension between the two of them. And I don't even think that Lewis necessarily understands it or knows it. I don't think he's dug around in there and kind of found all of that stuff. But it also created the very strong tie of a son and mother relationship, at least that's that aspect of his relationship with Mrs. Moore, because she did come visit him and stay with him while he was in the hospital recovering from his injuries. So I thought it's important to point that out because, you know, that's what I thought of when I read this. And yes, Nidelate, as you say, it is a sad situation. He says, whatever the next few days brings forth, I hope you will make no decision about your treatment without letting me know. I don't, of course, mean to postpone such decision necessarily till next week, but see that I am told. Of course, if there is serious trouble, you will have other advice than that of the Belfast crowd. With all my love and my best wishes, I wish there was anything more useful I could offer. Your loving son, Jack. So yeah, things are not looking good right now. Who knows? Maybe if Robot Lady doesn't spoil it for us, his father could, recover for this, and this might not be his dad's time. But at least from early indications, it's not looking that way. That's where we'll stop today, Robot Lady. Do you have anything else that you want to share? Again, no spoilers, please, about what we've read today. Pretty heavy stuff. I don't know why I'm giggling so much. Maybe that's my way of dealing with heavy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. It is really heavy. And I think it's a testament to how much Lewis is holding inside, even if he doesn't fully articulate it. So I'll just say, yeah, I think you've captured that dynamic really well, and we can pause here. And next time we can pick up from there and see how it all unfolds.
All right, thanks so much, Robot Lady. I appreciate your help today, as always. Special thanks to, and shout out to Andrew. Who knows, maybe we'll hear more from Andrew in the future. We might even get to look at him someday. But for right now, he's just this amorphous voice that has the ability to join us as necessary. He has a little bit of a better grasp on all of our content from our prior episodes. And so I do have the ability to dial him up and say, hey, tell us, if I'm trying to remember something, only if you're not here at Midlatte. If I'm trying to remember something, maybe Andrew can help us figure out what it is that I've forgotten about the particulars of what we've covered in the project so far. So thanks to both of you. Thank you, Midlatte, Daniel, and everyone else who joined today for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always welcome to you and to everyone else within the sound of my voice. Until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, take care.
Break the code. Man and robot lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis letters we unfold. Insights and secrets, ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape lands. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Photographs from books, tales of old. We dive deep, cross the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes rants. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's lands to screw tapes rants. Engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance.